far beyond the northern fjords, where ancient burial mounds rise from the frozen earth like silent guardians. The Vikings believed that the dead did not always stay buried. The north was a land of warriors, and warriors carried powerful spirits. When a Viking died in battle, his soul was meant to travel to Valhalla to feast among the gods. But not every warrior was granted such an honor. Some were too cruel, some were too proud, and some simply refused to leave the world of the living. These warriors became something else. They became Draugr. For centuries, the old sagas warned of these undead warriors who rose from their graves with monstrous strength and an endless hunger for the living. They guarded their burial mounds and cursed anyone who dared disturb their rest. But even among the Draugr, there was one legend greater than all the others, the legend of King Skorri the Deathless. Long before the Viking clans ruled the northern seas, Skorri was a war king feared across the frozen lands. His armies burned villages, conquered tribes, and filled the valleys with the bones of his enemies. But Skorri feared only one thing: death. When his final battle came, the old sagas say Skorri refused to accept his fate. As he lay dying, he swore an oath that his spirit would never leave the world. The curse worked, but not as he intended. His body was buried in a massive stone mound deep in the northern wilderness, and beneath the frozen earth, something waited. Centuries passed. The mound remained untouched, hidden beneath snow and ice, until one winter a group of treasure hunters discovered it. The men came from southern lands, drawn by rumors of a king buried with gold, weapons, and ancient relics. They dug into the mound during the long night of winter. At first they found nothing but bones. Then they reached the central chamber. There, sitting upright upon a throne of stone, was the corpse of King Skorri. His armor was intact. His crown rested upon his skull, and across his lap lay a massive sword carved with strange runes. The treasure hunters laughed. They had found their king, but when they tried to take the crown, the corpse moved. One of the men screamed, but it was already too late. King Skorri opened his eyes. Blue fire burned within the empty sockets of his skull. The Draugr King had awakened. By the time the storm ended the next morning, the treasure hunters were gone. The burial mound was silent once more, but the dead had begun walking. Not far from that cursed place, a warrior named Einar Gravewalker heard the rumors. Entire hunting camps had disappeared. Travelers spoke of a massive figure walking through the snow at night, and wherever the creature walked, the dead rose behind it. Einar knew the old stories. If a Draugr king had truly awakened, the north would soon drown in an army of undead warriors. He traveled toward the burial mound alone. The journey took 2 days through frozen forests and empty valleys. When he finally reached the mound, the sky above had turned black with heavy snow clouds. The mound looked ancient, its entrance surrounded by massive stones half buried in ice. But the ground nearby was disturbed. Footprints, dozens of them, yet none led away. Einar drew his runic axe and stepped inside. The air in the burial chamber was deathly cold. The walls were covered in ancient carvings of Viking battles and funeral rites. Then Einar heard something moving deeper in the darkness. Slow, heavy, patient footsteps. A massive figure stepped forward from the shadows. King Skorri. His body was enormous even in death. Ancient armor covered his skeletal frame, and blue fire burned inside his hollow eyes. Behind him stood dozens of Draugr warriors, frozen corpses in broken armor, holding rusted weapons. The Draugr King raised his sword. The undead army began to move. Einar rushed forward before the warriors could surround him. His axe struck the first Draugr, shattering its skull instantly, but 2 more attacked from the sides. The chamber filled with the sound of breaking bones and clashing steel. Einar fought like a storm, and one by one the undead warriors fell, but the Draugr King did not move. He just watched. Finally Skorri stepped forward. The ground beneath his feet froze instantly as dark magic spread through the chamber. Einar swung his axe toward the king's chest. Skorri blocked the strike easily. The undead king moved with terrifying strength, his massive sword cracking the stone walls with each swing. Einar barely avoided the attacks. The battle raged across the chamber until Einar noticed something strange. The blue fire in Skorri's eyes pulsed each time the crown on his head glowed. The crown was the source. As the Draugr King raised his sword again, Einar leaped forward, driving his axe upward into the crown. The runes exploded with light. The crown shattered. The blue fire inside the king's eyes flickered wildly. With a final roar, the Draugr King collapsed, his body turning to ash across the stone floor. The remaining Draugr warriors fell lifeless around him. Silence returned to the burial mound. Einar stood alone among the broken bones. But as he turned to leave, he saw something glinting inside the shattered crown, a fragment of black metal, ancient, carved with runes older than any Viking kingdom. and somewhere far beyond the frozen mountains, something else had begun to awaken. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tale from the frozen north, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more legends and lore. See you next time.